Are you doing the activity? Downloads, unzip. All right, guys, you unzipped that folder. You pasted in your own config, right, for your own Firebase database. You're playing around with the code, looking at Firebase, and then you're going over the code with your partners. We'll go over it in 10 minutes. config your project home. So the project overview. Scroll down a bit. Scroll down to the one. Sorry, go to settings. Go down. Project settings. Scroll down. And there's your yeah, they changed it like, not like they changed from yesterday to today.
Oh, and it's just word feeding. It's still within the running both functions.
JS file. Save refresh. Then you go away.
And then that goes into dates.
That's right. Thank you.
Amazing, right?
Yeah,
In 5 minutes, we'll go over that file, so please look it over. You finished the trivia? You understand this? You don't understand that?
So you want to keep it.
It has to be.
It's okay. Yeah. You put LG. You put LG there. Let's say your page looks, it's 12 rows on a big screen, but on a small screen it's 3 rows. Because then you could do call LG12 and then space call dash SM3 dash 3. So you can customize the view of that row based on the device type, device width that you're looking at. But they have only one there, so they don't need to put LG there. Yeah. All right, guys. Okay. Let's go over this code right here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out this file, the one that I have right this second. So that way you guys can bid. So let me just move to trash. Compress this, and we'll go over this line by line so that you all understand this. Ah, did not want to do that. Okay, L1. And I still need to grade some of your papers, so I'll do that during the next activity. I can see your messages, Will. Missed how long we have for the activity. Was the time? Or no more time. Sorry, Will. So go ahead, unzip this, open this up, and make a bid. And let me see if I can show you guys both screens. And this is... What is this right here? Make this smaller. Oh crap, Janak. Dropped $1,000. I put you and Derek originally at 5. Yeah, you guys just got, yeah. Oh, cool, 1,001. Aaron came at 1020. Josh 1,500. Oh man. Janat's boss was like, you need to get this item. Here's the black card. Has anyone ever been in an auction like that? eBay? Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, eBay. Duh. Oh my God, I've been in auctions like that. It's completely forgot about you. Okay. All right. So one thing, the most important thing to notice over here is that we're just keeping. Wow. So it's not even. It can't handle it. Over here on the left, we're only storing one bid, right? The highest bid, and that's it. So keep that in mind, because with this, we can't see all the previous bids. If you want to see a history of the bids, right? With what we did right here, but in future files, we'll see a way to push. It's called push, and it's called child to get to keep all the bids right there. And then there's a sort function in firebase also, where you can sort the values.
Those would be considered an edit and not an insert to the database.
Yeah, initially it's an insert, and then it's like an update, right? But eventually we want to like be able to store everything. Okay, so let's take a look at what makes this happen. So over here, I got this from the curriculum. I usually put jQuery at the very bottom, and then my code, and then Firebase after that, and then my code after that, but they chose to put this in the head. That's fine. We have our HTML. So Alan asked some good questions about this right here. Right? What is LG? What does call-LG-12 mean? Large, yeah.
The format size, you're formatting it for that.
For that,
Screen size, or I should say.
how many columns does this take up? 12, good, right? 12 whole columns. So it's like the full width, right, of the container, of the row. Well, in this scenario, because we have only one class over here, you don't have to put LG, right? You could just do call-12, right? Because the person said call-LG-12, but they didn't say, right? So if you have two, let's say for large screens, you want it to take up 12 columns, but on medium screens, and I don't know what the width range is for medium and large, but for medium screens, you want it to be 8 columns. What this would do is it would customize it based on the screen size. 8 columns if it's medium, 12 columns if it's large. But if you only have one, like you don't have to specify LG, right? Because it's going to do 12 columns for every single device type, no matter what the screen size is actually.
But do you need to specify 12 columns even at that point? I'm sorry, are we on like a,
Yeah, I mean,
Bootstrap or not?
It's using Bootstrap.
Okay.
It's using Bootstrap, yeah. I forget if just putting call right there does 12 automatically, but it's better to always be explicit for other people so they know that you mean 12, right? But I just wanted to point that out because it was a good question. And then going down, we're including logic.js, and that's where all our Firebase code is. So let's go in here. So why do we have this variable over here? Let's go to Nick.
The config? Well, definitely not for, yeah, I mean, it provides all the information you need for a Firebase project.
That's great, right? This allows us to connect to Firebase, to our particular database. So where do you get this? It was a little tricky, so I'm gonna just point it out. You can go to settings right here, project settings, and scroll down and then click on these tags right here. This is for Android, this is for iOS, and this is for Unity to make games. And you can just copy this config from here. So one more time, the gear, project settings, scroll down, click on this one with the tags, and then just copy this config to your HTML file. Okay, cool. Going back. And then we're going to take this config variable and pass it to this initialize app function of the Firebase object. And where does this Firebase object come from? Let's go to Joe's row, Joe and Rob.
It's a Firebase command.
Excellent. Really good, right? Because we have, as Rob mentioned, because we have this script tag right here, that JavaScript file, this JavaScript file has the Firebase variable inside of it, right? So that's why we don't see var Firebase anywhere, right? Because we're getting that from the Firebase JavaScript file that we included in our HTML at the top. And then we're going to call the .database function on that Firebase object and reference that from a variable named database. And now we're going to set two initial values. And they're going to be global, right? We're making them global. So what do I mean by global, Quasro? Yeah, it means my entire file, no matter where I am, I can see it, right? No matter where I am, I have access to these variables here. That's what global means. And to make things global, the best way to do that is just include your variables at the very top of the page. It's the clearest way. You're also coding for other people, right? And you're also coding for yourself 5 years from now, right? So think about yourself 5 years from now and do them a favor, right? And make your code better. Otherwise, you'll look back and it'll be a mess. I've dealt with that before. But anyway, right here, this is definitely a challenge. We haven't really seen things like this, except one time. All right, so set timeout. Here, alert, hi. What does this code do? Let's go to Derek Jutka.
Set timeout calls an anonymous function which has alert high in it, and it sets the timeout for 3 seconds.
Good. So visually when I run this code, just explain from that point of view. What's going to happen?
Will alert high
Mhm.
after 3 seconds.
Excellent. It's going to alert high after 3 seconds, right? So what if I change this to this? Let's go to Sandy's row. Excellent. Now it's set interval, and every 3 seconds we're going to get an alert, right? So you can kind of think of set interval over here, right? So like whenever the value changes, whenever the value in the database changes, this function right here, this function inside this function right here is going to be called anytime the database is changed, right? Anytime the database is changed, this function's going to get called, right? Just like it's almost similar to this where every 3 seconds, this function's going to get called, right? It's just going to happen because why? Because set interval was coded like that. Set interval was coded like that for us, right? And just like that, database.ref.onValue is coded like that for us by Firebase, right? Firebase coded this for us so that anytime a value in the database changes, this function right here executes. And this represents the entire database, right? If you put a value here, let's say, right, node 1, then this would represent a key in the Firebase database, and that key pointing to a value, and that value being changed. But we haven't done anything like that. I'm just pointing it out, right? I'm just pointing it out right now. Okay, so this snapshot's going to be the entire. It's going to be the entire database. And then over here, what they're saying, snapshot.child.highBidder.exists and snapshot.child.highPrice.exists. And if we go back to our database, real time, we see our keys are high bidder and high price right here. Do we have a Jenny in our class? I wonder, is that a song? Oh, wait, it is. Oh, it is. Yeah, I get it. Okay. So let's look at the snapshot right now. I'll put a debugger statement in, right? In the last week, raise your hand if you use a debugger statement. Kwa, Aaron, anyone else? I want to see everyone's hands up after next week, right? I want you to use a debugger statement because you're kind of guessing if you're not using a debugger statement. You're kind of guessing. Or you're like, I think this is what the problem is. But with debugger, I can just look at what the snapshot is and play around with the code. So that's what I'll do. So let's go back to the HTML. And right here. And now how do I run my debugger statement? Let's go to Quasro. Qua Aaron. So refresh. Update the database. Okay, so let me do. What happened? Well, what did I forget to do? Yep, good. Right. Open up the console, and let me put this in. Okay, now let me submit the bid. Okay, so we'll do. You are now the highest bidder. All right, cool, excellent, good job, Josh. All right, so we had to open up the console and then run our code. Open up the console and then run our code. Okay, so now I'm in this debugger statement. And so what I'll do is I'll hit escape, bring this up, and I'm going to make this go out into a new window because it's just too much. Okay, here we go. So what I have on the bottom is a mini console. You can toggle it with escape, right? So hit escape, it comes up, and it's helpful because you can see the code, and you can also write some code at the same time. And you have to kind of like wait for this arrows to come up to be able to adjust it. So now I'm going to type in snapshot. Snapshot looks like that, right? If I do snapshot dot what to get the way the database looks like, snapshot.val, right? That gets me what the database looks like right now, right? So let me just put this in the. Yeah, and now let's take a look at snapshot.child high bidder right here. See what that looks like. So looks like it gave us this object. If I do dot val, it gets us the value at that particular key, which is pretty cool. So let me just take a screenshot of this. And now let's try this function as it is right now. Dot exists, so it gives us true. But let's try something that probably doesn't exist, right? So fast car, false, right? There is no key in our Firebase database named fast car, right? So that's why that returned false. Okay, so that's essentially what I wanted to do right now. Show you guys how to use debugger and explore the snapshot a bit and see what these functions are doing a little bit more in depth, right? With breakpoints, you can basically solve most problems, even without understanding the syntax, right? One of my students did an iOS app. I didn't know iOS, but I was able to help him debug his app by just using breakpoints in the iOS coding editor. So breakpoints are super powerful. Okay, so let me just close out of this. So this dot child, this is part of Firebase. Dot exists, that's part of Firebase. And then over here, we're saying that if these both exist, right, let's update the global variables at the top, right? Because the global variables right now, it's 0 and no 1, right? That's the values. But if we've already used it, that means there is a person that bid, right? There is a highest bidder. So we need to grab the highest bidder and load it up into our variables that we set over here. And over here, what's parse int doing? Let's go to Fernando's row. What's parse int doing on line 32? Excellent. It's taking the high price and making sure it's an integer. That's interesting. I never tried that. So we'll do parse int a, and that converts it. Interesting. So it looks like it ignores commas. Yeah, that would be very bad. Okay, good point, Josh. Okay, going back to this code. So now that we've loaded up the highest bidder and the high price, we're just putting them on the page. So as soon as we have a highest bidder and high price, we're going to put it on the page. Go ahead. Yeah, it's gonna take the value and convert it to an integer. So it's gonna take the value, convert it to a whole number. Yeah, so integer is a whole number. Yes, and it could be 0, 1, 2, 3, or it could be negative also. Like -1, -2, -3.
Like also string to put a string in there and change that to an integer, right? For the example you said.
Whoa. Oh, someone just bid. Someone just bid. That's why the breakpoint just see how the breakpoint just triggered on my screen? I didn't do anything. That means someone just bid. So let me just quickly check who bid. Thung. Okay. I don't know who that is. Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, because you put in that on the previous example, the quotes, the 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a string, right? So that turns it into an integer.
Yeah, parse int turns that into an integer. Yeah, and then dot text turns it back into text, right? But we're putting it onto the page, so that's fine. Yeah. Over here, if there is an error with Firebase, then it's going to trigger this function instead of this function right here. So let me just, so we have two functions. Dot on takes in three arguments, right? The first argument of dot on is what, Maricel? I said your name right?
Yes.
Thank God. I was like, did I? Because you looked at me for a little bit, and I was like, fuck. All right. Well, what's the first argument? Yeah. In the dot on function right here, what's the first argument? Value, right? Value is the first argument. What's the next argument? The function, right? This function right here. What's the last argument? Function error object right here. So this on function has 3 arguments, right? The first one is value, the second one is this function, and the third one is this function. It's kind of weird. JavaScript's unique, where it's not that unique, but it's one of the languages where you can pass a function to another function, right? You can pass a function to another function, and you can't really do that in Ruby or in PHP in languages like that. But
just about every other language I know, I can
yeah, I guess. like what?
everything.
Okay.
Everything from C to the Swift, or from just all the oddball languages, really like monads, which is like the super fancy way of saying callbacks.
Yeah, so with languages that are like top down, like synchronous, like one line happens after another, you can't really do this. But as Ray mentioned, languages that are more functional can do this.
7 is the last thing I can think of that doesn't use it without an 8. So.
Interesting. Okay, so this is what we use to load up the highest bidder and the highest bid. And then over here, right, this is where we submit a bid. Go ahead.
For the dot child function, would it always look one level down, or if it has like?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. So Maricel asked, does this look one level down, right? In this case, it's going to look only one level down, because over here we did database.ref. Database.ref is as high as like the base level. It's a base level. And from there you can go one level down, right? Now if I did high bidder right here, we're starting at high bidder, right? And these won't exist, because it's going to look inside high bidder now.
If I decide to look at the root node, going to, let's say, the third like layering, so will I still use the dot child, or is there any?
So if you're going,
If I want to look at that particular child node exists, how would I from the root node?
Yeah, sure. Oh, I see what you're saying. If you want to go deeper, so let's say node 1, node 2, node 3. So this would let you go.
Oh.
So this would be node 1 points to an object, and then node 2 points to an object, and node 3. It would keep going down those levels.
But what if I don't know like the structure? And I just
You would have to.
Oh.
You would have, if you're gonna do this particular thing, you would have to know the structure. Yeah, I mean, but you can, because you're the developer and you can go to the database and look it up, right? Yeah.
But I mean, what if I'm not the one who did the database and
You would have to talk to them. Yeah.
So there's no way for me to like make up a kind of like dynamic and not look at the database every time there was a change.
You could wrap this in a function, and that function can be named correctly, and then you would know to call that function. It'll come clearer once you use Firebase a little bit more. Our projects start this Saturday, and they start this Saturday, so you'll have an opportunity to kind of like dive into Firebase because you're gonna be required to use it in there. Okay, let me just go back. Okay, so going down here, this is where we submit a bid, right? That when we click that form, that's that button. This is the on click that gets triggered. And then what about this code right here? What are we doing on line 53 to line 56? Let's go to Aaron and Fernando's row. Okay, what's line 53 doing?
you're stopping it from going, reverting back to refresh it.
Excellent, right? We're stopping the page from refreshing, right? Because the form, it automatically submits to the current page you're on. Good job, Fernando. So we're preventing that default action from the form. And then what about these two lines right here?
You're creating two variables.
Excellent.
Bidder's name, bidder's price.
Excellent. We're making two brand new variables, bidder name, bidder price. We're grabbing those values from the form. Now, important question, are these global or are these local? Local, why?
Because they're inside of this function.
Excellent, right? They're inside this function. So, and we prepended the variables with var, right? So they're local. They will only live inside this function. That's it, which is completely fine because we're just using them to potentially update the Firebase database. Okay, so now that we have the bidder name, bidder price, now what do we do? Like, what's the point of this if statement right here? Let's go to Rob's row. What's the point of this if statement right here?
So there's already a price set, and you're saying that this is only gonna happen if the person puts in a higher price than my price.
Awesome. Awesome, right? So right here, we're just checking right on this line if bidder price is greater than high price. So if your price is greater than the highest price, the price in the database, then we're going to allow you to update the database, right? And where this high price is always being updated by database.rep.onValue. So it's always going to be up to date, no matter who updates it, right? No matter who updates it in the class, that high price is going to be updated. And then over here, this is where we update the database, right? We're updating the entire database, right? So Kwa asked, isn't this bad, the other class? Right? You asked, like, we erase the entire database and replace it. Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but it's what we're using right now to learn. But there's other functions you can use in Firebase that won't just erase the entire database. And then that's essentially it. That's essentially it, right? So if you had the highest price, then we're going to update. If your price is higher than, if your bid is higher than the highest price, then we're going to update the database. Go ahead, Paul.
If there are other functions to update the database by erasing it, then what's the point of nonsense?
Oh, it's a little bit easier to learn. And maybe you want to use this. Maybe you want to do it in this particular way, right? Questions? Okay, so now that we went over it, I want to give you like 5 minutes to look it over one more time. And if you have any questions, just like, please let me know, right? Because a lot of students have trouble with this, but it's more because they just don't ask the questions that they have rather than it's hard. Because it's not hard, it's just you might have questions and you're just not asking them. So we'll just do 5 minutes, just look it over, see if there's any questions that you have, and then we'll just answer them right after.
That's why you move out of the cup. Your arms was never invested there.
Mhm.
What's an example?
Yeah, so I guess maybe you're trying to access a child that doesn't exist, and you're trying to set it.
Is that like a?
It would be like a firebase error, like you're trying to update a child node that doesn't exist.
Okay, is that something we should like standardly have?
You should have it
Just have it.
because it's easier for you to debug your code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's an error. Or if it goes up, it's gonna be like. So it's pretty much the same as Snapchat. As any variable, and then it's gonna get and I just have like
What's up? That happens sometimes, very What's up? You can think of it like that, or you can think of it as like a key in your database that points to like a new database almost. Exactly. All right, guys. So I sent out a new zip folder. Dude, you just like cavemaned it. Like plate need now.
And we're like an hour and
All right. Just download it, unzip it, and then just open up the HTML file in your browser. Don't change the config variable for this one. So I see people in the class so far have opened this file.
I'm unzipping.
Nice. Let's see if we can get to 10. I should have this on every file just to see who has it open. just a battle. It should be an iPhone game. You're competing against the world. All right, 10 people are watching now. We have 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have at least 19 people in this room. All right. So what's happening on the bottom? Right here. How can we connect the left part of the screen to the right part of the screen? What's relating them together? Qua. Like how do we know that there are 15 people watching this page right now?
Every time someone runs the file in the browser,
Mhm.
connectref.on runs and it pushes through and it pushes the address of that person's link.
No, good, right? So this connections key, one more added. And then over here we notice it's clicks, and inside clicks there's click count, right? So click count is like one node deep, right? So we have this key, and inside this key there's an object with the key value pair. And then over here we have a key called connections, and we have all key value pairs inside of here that represent all the connections. So let's take a look at the code that makes this happen. Right, so over here we include our config variable, which if changed, then you wouldn't see the connections because you're only really connected to yourself. And then over here, we're just initializing it, same stuff. Over here they kind of like made the code a little less redundant, but it kind of makes it harder to understand. So what I'm going to do is like change it up a little bit right here. I went too far. 1 second. Right here. There we go. And then one more. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to just remove this to make it a little bit easier to understand what's going on. They made it a little bit less redundant by making those variables. It's harder to see what's going on. So over here, we're going into .info/connected. So we're making it all connected. And when there's a new connection, then we're doing snap.val. We're going to database.ref connections, and we're pushing true. And then when we're disconnected, we're going to remove that connection over here. This is straight from the Firebase documentation, right? This is straight from that documentation that is in other class. So when you want to do something a little different than what we've gone to class, that's the first place I would look in that documentation. But over here, this right here will push your connection into that connections key, right? And once you leave the page, then it's going to remove it. It's going to remove that key value pair from the connections key. So right here, we have the connections key. So when you enter the page, it's going to add your key value pair right here. And then when you leave the page, it's going to remove your key value pair. That's what this code's doing right here. And then over here, based on ref/connections, we're saying look inside connect right here, right? Look only inside connections. And when that connections key updates, then run this function. Right? So let's go over that one more time. So database.ref/connection means go into the connections key, right? Go into the connections key and watch it, right? When value changes here in the connections key, then run this function. And then this line right here, interesting, what it's doing is it's finding the element with an ID of watchers, and it's updating the text to shot.numChildren. So as you can, like, it's putting the number, right, over we're seeing 15, right? So what it's doing is it's grabbing all of this, it's counting the number of children in the connections key, right? It's going into the connections key and grabbing the number of children, meaning number of key values in the connections key. And that's how we know how many watchers we have. Go ahead, Marcel.
Is there any difference if like slash and without the slash for the
Let's try it. You should try to use a slash, but I don't think there is a difference. You don't have to use the slash. Let's save this, and let me go back. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, but as soon as you go one more deep, you need the slash. Like if there's a key inside of that, then you need a slash there. Can't get around that. But this slash is. Thank you for asking. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Sandy. Yeah, so this is part of Firebase. Yeah, so this snapshot. So let's do debugger. Can someone leave the page temporarily? Thank you. Okay, so let me just refresh this. Okay, so right here, see the snapshot. So if I do snapshot.val, it shows all value pairs inside snapshot, but only in connections because we did slash connections right here, right? So it's going only inside slash connections and getting all those key value pairs. And then as soon as we do snap.numChildren, it gives us the number of watchers. And I'll hit play. No, why did I do that? Damn it. Where's the play button? Does anyone see the play button? Help. Oh, play. And it looks like it fired again, meaning someone just entered the page. Ah, okay. So we see 14 now. So once I hit play, it's 14. So anytime there's anytime that connections key, anytime there's a new value here, this function right here gets triggered. This function right here gets triggered. And we update the number of connections on the page.
Maybe we do that by IP address?
If you're side, yeah. Yeah, so you'll be able to do that later on. And you can get the IP address. Something you can't get, though, is the previous URL that came, unfortunately. That's the one thing you can't get. Maybe you can if you put cookies on the computer, but yeah, people don't like it.
Do object doc and then put that object and then dot, right?
Sure. You could do that too. This is always a little bit better, right? Because you already anyway. So it's going to be less work for your machine. Minute, right? If there's a million, right? Doing object.keys is very bad. Yeah. Whereas snapshot.numChildren isn't going to take a million rows and put it in your browser. A million key value pairs. Good questions. And then over here, this is our click count, right? So we have two variables, and these are global. And over here, if the slash clicks updates, right? If anything in slash clicks update, right here. So if anything in here updates, then it's going to trigger this function right here, because we have database.ref/on value. So if that value changes anytime inside slash clicks, it's going to run. And what is this doing? It's adding the new clicks, the new number of clicks to the page. And over here, this is decrementing it and restarting it. I'm not going to go over this part. Okay, I'll give you guys 10 minutes to go over this with your partners. Right, line by line with your partners for this file.
So you said you can't get the site they came from, can you get the site?
And you might you have some JavaScript and you can chef on your email.
Right.
This probably will be this and then to a router or
Yeah. We'll learn how to do that with MySQL.
With MySQL, with just Express, you should be able to. With just Express and JavaScript, you should be able to figure that out. Google Analytics.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? Janak. Janak, you can unmute yourself. You know that.
Okay, Pawan, I'm going to share my screen and then ask you.
Sure. So let me stop sharing my screen. Go for it. Just speak up a little bit or increase your volume.
So the problem that I face in the first project is, the first activity is, how can I link that to my database? Because it's not showing the live update in my database.
How can you link it to your GitHub?
No, not in the GitHub, database.
Oh, for your own database,
Right. I
Okay.
updated the.
If you updated the config, it should work, but it's not doing it. Oh, can you here, one sec. Let me just do this. Thanks. So restore probably. There we go. So real-time data. One sec. Let's take a look at the rules. I think it's true to be here. Yeah, now it should work. Okay, go try the file. And check the database. It's in the same Chrome. It's right there.
Yeah.
Nice, cool.
I forgot to update the real-time database. Okay, thanks, Pawan.
The real time and false need to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Marcel. Hey, William. Thanks for your yeah, go ahead, share your screen. Or you can ask, yeah, how would you shuffle value Firebase Limited? Interesting. How to shuffle? There might be if there is a shuffle function. I've never done that. I've sorted from Firebase, but I've never shuffled it. But I'm sure there's got to be a function in Firebase to do that. And then to do limited values, it's really just dot limit. There's a dot limit function where you get the revalues that come back. Give me a thumbs up when you're good. Cool. No problem, man. Did I put a timer on? Did I put a timer on? Oh, it's right here.
Hey, Pavan.
What's up?
Yeah, I mean, so going back to that question, I mean, say for example, if I had 5 questions to display, right? And I'm using Firebase. The program is running, but it's running fine, right? But it needs those questions to be shuffled every time I want to show. For example, only 3, per session or something. Say then I have 50 questions.
Oh, look at this.
I want the user to only answer 10 from the 50. And the questions should be, in a random order or something, but I need, I don't know, the code to run, for example, say an Android or, iOS or whatever,
Oh, looks like there's a way of doing this. Right here. Let me just Slack it to you.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It says Swift, but it should work.
What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean Swift is iPhone, but seems like it's JavaScript they're using. It looks fine.
Right. And you're slacking that over, right?
Yeah, I just slacked it.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man.
No problem, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I haven't done that before, but we can make an example and send it to. If you can make an example of that, give it to the class. That would be much appreciated for the classmates.
I can do my best and try for sure. Yes.
Yeah, try your best and then show it to me. Interesting. So it looks like this is a Firestore example. Either way, if you can get it to work on Firestore, that's interesting too.
Right. Okay.
If it works on Firestore but not on real-time database, then that's a reason to use Firestore.
Right. Right on, man. Thank you. Let me get on that and see if I can make it happen.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah, what's up? What's up? Sure, it's going there right now. Right here? Oh yeah, I deleted it because I replaced it. I got rid of those. And I took the values down into it. Because otherwise it's, see right here? See right here? I put the value in instead.
Okay, so the value of dot slash RFC, right? Anytime someone has the link to this page, that just automatically goes through.
Here, let me go over to you. Yeah, so let me just look that up real quick. Let me get the official documentation. So everyone,
Like it makes sense when you explain it.
no, that one I'm gonna get the.
Try to do something.
Here we go. There we go. See if I can kind of link to this particular part of the page. Detected. Connection state. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let me just send you this right here. Yeah, so if you read that part, it'll make a little bit more sense. No problem. Thanks for asking.
Database again?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what's up, Qua? Give me 1 second. All right.
So this line, are we creating clicks and checking to see if it changes at the same time? Because it's ref.
I see what you're saying. So,
like, where are we?
If there are no clicks, then it's not going to run this function at all.
So
right. So as soon as the first person clicks, then it makes it. So look where.
So why do we manually create connections if we didn't manually create clicks?
Right here / clicks. The reason why we're manually making connections is because we need that there for there to be the presence, tech presence.
No, but then this detects if there's something present, and then we're adding.
Oh wait, no, this doesn't. This is just a variable.
Yeah, no, I know. So this is either true or false. This is our actual connection that we created, right?
No. That's just. Oh, see, I got rid of those because that was confusing. This doesn't do anything. These two don't do anything. They're just references.
Wait, no, this does do something. If this is true, that means someone has a link to this, and then this code will run based on if this value is true or not. If this is true, it'll push, right, to connections that we created. So yeah, if you put this in here, then we're just checking to see if this is a true or false. So this does do something.
Yeah, well, this doesn't do anything, right? It's just right here. When a value inside of here changes, then this function runs.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is by default false until you are on this
Oh yeah,
page.
when you're on that page.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it.
So you're right. You're right. You're right. Sorry.
So,
sorry.
yeah, so it doesn't change when you're actually on it and you're looking at it and it's running,
Mhm.
but it technically is always false until
When you look
Yeah.
at the page, then
and then after that it
then
doesn't do anything.
then that means a value that value changed and this function runs.
Yeah.
And then when you leave the page, then this function runs
So
again.
so this runs once.
Once, yeah.
Okay. So and then let's talk about this. We're creating connections right here, right?
Mhm.
So this line creates this node. No.
It does not.
It does not,
It
okay.
does not create that node.
So connections is created on that dot value.
When we do dot push true, that's when this gets added in. When this line finishes running, that's when this connections key gets made and this gets pushed next. Not when this happens. After these 2 lines of code, nothing happens.
Okay, yeah, these first 2 lines are confusing.
I got rid of them.
Yeah.
I have to go back to this
Okay,
class.
yeah.
But all right, guys. So we had some good questions. One question was right here by Aaron asked a really good question about Snap, and he just wanted to verify with me. You can name this anything you want, and that's true. So we can call this S, right, if we wanted to, and it would be fine. So whatever you name this here it's what it is right here, right? So whatever the name is, it's going to be the snapshot, right? So that was a good question. Another question was on this part right here, right? .info/connected, right? So it's detecting your presence, right? So Qua and Sandy asked about this a bit, right? .info/connected is basically like checking your presence. So as soon as you are physically looking at this page, right, then that means that this, as Qua put it, this is true. And then this function will run as soon as you're looking at the page. And then over here on line 35, we're pushing true into /connections. We're pushing true into /connections, right? So that's why this line right here is what makes this happen right here. Let me put this side by side. Where's the dot push? Right, so this dot push is like, this is why it's like this. This is a key, this is a random like UUID that Firebase is generating. Right, so this thing right here, this is what Firebase is generating, a random identifier for you when you view the page. If you want to read more about this, check out that link. Check out this link right here. And I also want to just point this out, NoiseBridge, they have like Monday free classes if you're interested in checking it out. It's in the mission. It's pretty famous also. NoiseBridge. It's just a free hackerspace. It's a nonprofit hackerspace, and they have free classes over there. So over here, they have upcoming events. It's on Mission Street. So over here, I mean, they have everything from sewing classes to Python classes to IoT development. They have a laser cutter there that anyone can use for free. They have a ton of tools, right? A ton of tools.
Anything you can think of. Like, I think over the holidays of last year, I was mowing like microchips with like pure acid over there. So it's an interesting place.
Yeah, so on February 4th, it's free. Everything's free. So on Monday, February 4th, there's a free Python class if you are interested, right? If you're interested in making games, then there's a free game, but that's during class, right? Class will end eventually and you'll go to this. If you want to. If you want to.
There's Crucible over in Oakland, which is the same kind of thing, but it's paid for.
Pseudocode. Pseudo?
No, Crucible.
Link to it. There's a if you're in Oakland, there's pseudo room. And then whatever Ray just said. This isn't as famous as Noisebridge, but it's what Oakland's got, and it's pretty good from what I've heard.
Is the place called Noisebridge?
Yeah, it's called Noisebridge. It's on Wikipedia. You can check it out. They call it an anarchist educational hackerspace, and you'll understand why when you go in there. It's really crazy. What does that mean?
Don't use your credit card while you're there.
Well, that's generally true, like anywhere you go with a wireless network, right?
Yeah, well, especially there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, all right. I just got it.
Or practicing.
Okay, so we'll just do a break right now for 15 minutes. Come back right after. What's up?
Could you check out that events page?
Oh, I did right? Did I do that? Did right here. Events.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nice. Okay. Oh, dude, this is awesome. Check out this one.
Yeah.
So they have a glass, like the thing, those glass makers. They have that thing there.
Yeah, it's a full-on workshop.
That's insane. Woman blacksmith. It's like that's.
Blacksmithing, glass, a bunch of other crazy things there.
It's insane.
You don't blacksmith on your weekends?
I used to do that.
It's amazing.
Oh, that's where the Georgia.
Oh my God, there's welding,
Yeah.
glass blowing, jewelry and metals.
Get out of there. It's not interesting.
Incredible.
They even have an Arduino.
Yeah, that's what I told you guys about the first. This is such a cool shot. This kid's probably 12.
I used to do that when I was 12.
Not in San Francisco, you didn't.
Not in San Francisco, back in Ohio.
That's awesome.
But also check out that Strange Parts channel as well. It's a really good YouTube channel that goes over how to make iPhones.
Did you link to it?
Oh, you linked to it.
I did?
Yeah, it's the right? Like I want to make more than that. It's a YouTube channel.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. to the YouTube channel. It's about him being independent and just making or gathering parts.
This is what people imagine Silicon Valley is, like everywhere. But then they like go around and it's not like this. It's just like this in a few places.
So cool. You need to start hanging out there.
It's free.
It's just intimidating. There's all this crap everywhere.
Just go.
Yeah.
Just go and have the inspiration sink in you.
Right. Like I'd love to learn all that stuff, but I'm sure as soon as you go to a place like that, you start to understand like territorial issues.
No, there aren't any terror. People are very open.
Oh yeah.
They're extremely open there. It's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
It's just really inspiring to be there.
It is. I was hanging out there. It was just like this girl was like a part of a German hacking community. And they had all these sort of like she was talking about these like hackathons that were like converting.
Sounds awesome.
How there's this international network.
Yeah, you're not going to meet people like that anywhere, but Noisebridge you'll meet people like that. But
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty insane.
as an ad.
He actually has one where he puts a headphone jack inside an iPhone.
Oh, you're how to make your own iPhone? Wow.
I think it's probably 2 more videos down.
Probably like a PhD student, and
No, he's a reporter for Vox. That's like his only claim to fame.
Vox.
Yeah.
Hmm. He goes to China. He's like, I want it back. Goes to a factory. That's pretty nuts. Yeah, I would just break. I would end up breaking it. I don't know. I would just buy a new phone. It's like Apple's worst nightmare. Like this guy.
I think there's rumors that they're actually going to
And then they'll sell units for that stupid reason. For
just
taking it out and take.
How can you sell phones that don't have?
It's pretty crazy.
You can sell laptops that
Yeah.
have something different than phones have.
This is pretty nuts because oh yeah, my laptop does, but I don't
It has
know.
a headphone jack.
It has
It
headphone
doesn't
jack.
have the iPhone.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The ones, like the headphones you're gonna buy nowadays from Apple, or
It's freaking terrible. So bad. Oh yeah, code.org is let me see, code.org binary. Eco.org. Yeah, this is a great. These videos are great to just understand computers and memory and binary code. They explain it super well. There's another one on the internet. Yeah, how the internet works. That's a fascinating one. Yeah, this is like so great. It sounds stupid, but most people don't know. Most people don't know this. No, like how like what makes the internet so fast? Like when you have a router, what is it actually doing, right? Like how does the image get from that server to you? It gets converted to binary, and the binary code gets broken up into packets, and the packets get sent out, and they go their own path from router to router all the way to you. It's pretty nuts. And then it gets reassembled.
I mean, I know that.
It's inside. I'm sorry. What'd you say? Oh, I don't even know that terminology. Yeah, it sounds. Yeah, you. Mm. Yeah, but the way the internet was made, I think it's going to inspire a lot of things. Like the way routers work, inspired blockchain, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin and Ethereum were inspired by the way the internet works, the routers. I think one day if we have like instant teleportation, it'll be inspired by the internet. I think so, because it would be very similar. I think because you have to kind of like break yourself apart.
Well, I mean, VR is because I took a train tour through Napa Valley and visited a lot of.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of doing it.
It's like kind of teleportation, but obviously you're not really there. But it's virtual.
Yeah, that's like one way
It's amazing.
of doing it. I've been in VR. It's pretty good, but it's not like I know I'm in VR.
I know.
Yeah.
But you're still getting an experience.
Oh, without a doubt, it's phenomenal. It's really fun.
Of course, I'd rather go to Napa.
What's up? Last night? I didn't. What was on it? Wait. Yeah. It's crazy. I'll check it out. I don't want to ruin it. Nah, don't ruin it. Interesting. I was like, what the hell? That's right here. All right, guys. Ray sent out this thing, the Crucible. So there's two places in Oakland. One's called Pseudo Room. One's called the Crucible. They're both like Noisebridge. So if you're in Oakland, then check that out. And these are just some YouTube videos on how computers work and what routers do in relation to the internet. Super interesting videos, and they break it down super in plain English. So definitely check those out. It'll help you understand like everything better, right? So let's just take what we're learning and put into the context of everything. Now, go ahead to unzip this. This goes over one example with .set, and that same thing rewritten with .push, right? We've already seen .push once with the connections, but let's see it again in another example. So go ahead, unzip this, and put your own config variables in, and go over this with your partners, right? You have to play around with it first, but then go over it with your partners. And let's go to Joe. Give me a thumbs up when you have it unzipped in Sublime. And you have you copied over your own config variables. I was set. Look over set first. Hey, Joe, just give me a thumbs up when you have the config variable copied and pasted over. It's open in Chrome and Sublime. You good? All right, cool. All right, 15 minutes. It's 73, so we want.
Just turn it off. 54.
Seriously?
Turn it off. Yeah.
Which means
Just break it.
oh wait, there's a button here. I mean, that's the time. What's going on here? What am I doing?
Whatever it is, Ron's like, I'm just gonna rewire it. Pack it. Go to parse.
I'm gonna rip this out, bring it to the waste bridge. Please fix this.
Will we be putting our own API users too, or?
Update your own config. Guys, update the configs in these files when you're going over it. The dot set should be straightforward. It's what we've been using. Dot push, a little different, even though we've used it in the previous files.
I know it was mixed somewhere.
Yeah, I met this guy. I met the guy who made this randomly. Yeah, and he has like no customers, but he raised so much money.
There's so much money.
Yeah, in the valley. Yeah, I guess I know why he raised that much money, because when you meet him, he just sounds, he is super smart. He made the entire database, but I don't know. I wouldn't give him that money if you had no customers. Maybe.
Look at, like,
Maybe
you
you want.
only look at like one case, like Theranos.
Yeah, you're right.
No,
You're right.
no
You're right.
way.
You're right. You're right.
Sight unseen, millions of dollars. What does
So
it do though?
it's a real-time database like Firebase, but Firebase is centralized, so Google kind of owns the data.
Right.
Whereas what he made isn't centralized. Like it's kind of like it works almost like a blockchain,
Okay.
almost like a blockchain, but it's super fast, like a blockchain. So when you put the program on a server, it acts as a peer to all the people using it.
Is it open right now? Is it public?
Yeah, it's actually open source completely. It's called GunDB. He made it a long time ago.
He doesn't just have any professional clients.
He might, but at the end of 2017, no, wait, when did I talk to him? The end of 2018, he didn't have any. So maybe that changed, right? I mean, if you raise a lot of money, then he could hire salespeople. I was trying to tell him, like, you should get a salesperson, because he was just doing it on his own.
Yeah.
I'm like, you should get a salesperson. Like get a partner that can sell, because you're not selling, you're coding, which is fine. Just
Know your strengths.
yeah, exactly. But I don't think he was like really listening.
Well, FaunaDB's got a good file.
What is it?
FaunaDB.
How do you spell it?
Fauna, Fauna.
Interesting. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's huge. I don't know how it's any different than Mongo. Maybe it's elastic, kind of like maybe elastic pricing, but Is it NoSQL? I think it's also.
It looks way too enterprisey.
Well, regardless of how it looks. I mean,
Capital
I
One.
wonder if it's
I'm
any
just
different
kidding.
from Mongo. But it's part of the ecosystem of the Jam stack, you know, the microservices.
Oh, I see. Okay, interesting. Okay, it looks like they have their own query language, so maybe that's better than NoSQL. If what they made is better than NoSQL, because NoSQL isn't that great. If they made it better, then it can compete.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks this looks powerful
I'd
actually.
love to use it on a project.
Yeah, this is much more powerful than Mongo because you can't. I don't think you can do this in Mongo.
Yeah.
Or you can. It would just be 100 lines of code or 200 lines of code.
Yeah.
Interesting. Where'd you learn about this?
You know, I've been a pretty active member of the microservices community.
What does that mean?
3 years.
Okay.
I go to all the conferences.
Oh, okay. You go to conferences and stuff. Okay.
People that started, all the CEOs that started this.
It's interesting.
I mean, not that I'm anyone important.
Have you tried it?
No, I haven't. That's the point.
If you try it, I'll have you teach it to the class.
Oh, really?
And then it would look. I mean, I'll record it and stuff. It'd be cool.
Okay.
If you want to do that,
That'd be pretty awesome.
that would be really cool.
Definitely, I'll try and give a like.
And they would really appreciate it because they would learn a lot. Yeah, Nick, if you please do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long list of things.
That's something I've wanted to do for a while. Like have students just go learn something and present it, and teach it to the class. That's something I've wanted to do for a while.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm actually trying to pick up a CSS grid. It's
I would rather have you pick up that.
Yeah.
Then I think that what.
No, CSS grid is incredible.
No, I'm not. You're right. It is fantastic, but
like,
that database, I feel like that's much more valuable of a skill than grid.
Well, it could be. Yeah. It's just you know, I've suffered and struggled with responsive design for 5-6 years, and getting the web pages layouts working, especially vertical. And so now that grid's out, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a godsend. And more like only
What's up? That's crazy. It's like we'll meet on 3rd and Folsom. Like right on 3rd and Folsom. In the middle of the street. What building? No, just go there. They should be selling to like drug dealers. So they can have offices. Because they would need that. They would, yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So we had two files, set and push. And what you want to do is push. Right? Generally that's what you want. But there could be a circumstance where you want just set, right? If it's just two values and that's all it's ever going to be, maybe you want to just do set in that case, right? But if you want to maintain like a history, then push is the way to go, right? Set is super simple compared to push, but if you want to maintain a history, push is the way to go. So with set, what is this? What's lines 125 to 130 doing? Let's go to Sandy's row in this set file. Good, right? So we're going into the database and we're setting these key value pairs right here. So if we fill this out, AARON. Right, so with .set, it'll replace the entire database, right? The entire database right here. And then we'll do the push example. I'll just clear this. Okay, it's gone. And then right here, it creates a unique ID. Firebase is doing this for us, right? And inside we have the object. And now if I do another one, no. There we go. All right, that was the second one right here. So it's pushing each one. So it's maintaining the previous one also. So how does that one work? Well, instead of .set, all we're doing is .push. And what's cool over here is that we have a timestamp. So over here, we have the time that this happened. So if we take this right here and do Unix timestamp converter, I spelled converter wrong, but it's okay. Sometimes I spelled atrociously and Google just fixes it. Okay, so here we go. So this number converts today, February 1st to 2019 at 4:40 a.m. This is what time? It's GMT. So it's not Pacific time is, what is it? I can't. I mean, or whatever time it is right now.
So,
What time? It's 8:40.
like, how is that generated into main time? Like, how do we know that's on like start date 1,100,306?
Okay, so it's a Unix timestamp. Kit, do you remember like what's the date? 1972? 1970. What's the month and January 1st, 1970. Remember the time? 12 o'clock in the morning. Are you making that up?
I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's 12 o'clock.
Okay, let's just look it up real quick just to make sure time.
Yeah, that's almost as important as me.
Yeah, okay. Is 0 hours. Okay, so Unix timestamp is how many seconds have passed since January 1st, 1970. Right? That's what a Unix timestamp is.
Well, it's back in the
Wait, why is everyone laughing? Okay, got it. Okay.
Well, back in the early 70s, they were like, hey, we need an actual time to like locate one, and we only have 32 ones or zeros to deal with. Back then, they thought
you're right. Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
best time to go into the future. Because that's what 2037. about how are we gonna do once we break past that?
I mean, we'll fix it. We'll just make it 64 bits and then worry about that.
We will, but like, not my bank probably.
No, they will. I mean, Y2K did screw up anything because people fixed it.
It screwed up a few things, but it didn't screw up anything major.
Yeah. But anyway, number that came up right here, it's a Unix timestamp, and you can use JavaScript. If you look up convert Unix timestamp to date, you can convert this to a date in your JavaScript. And we're using Firebase to come up with that timestamp. And this is smart because you want the server time, right? You don't want their local time. You want server time because the server time's always going to be right, no matter if Nick's using it in San Francisco or Sandy's using it in, I was going to say LA, but that's the same time. Work, right? Whether she's using it in New York, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's going to be server time. It's going to be the same no matter where, right? Because you don't want to use the computer time. You want to use the server time because that's always going to be consistent. And then you can just convert it down and then convert it to the zone, right? So when you use .push, it's maintaining history. When you do .set, it's not maintaining history. Over here, when a new thing gets pushed in to database.ref, right? This function gets executed. So what is this function doing? It's just taking this person added and putting them on the screen. It's taking the last person added and putting them on the screen, actually. Right? So that's what onChild added means. Whenever a new child gets added, right? This is a child right here, and then right here is a child. So we have how many children do we have? 2 children, right? 2 child nodes. Cool. Questions on push? Yeah, there's child added, there's value. Right, so now we have value and child added. And we have 3, we have the connection thing also. Right, on the new connection. .info/connection.
Server time, data as always going to be
Yeah, they're going to give it to us in time. That's what you want. You always want the server time, always, no matter what project you're on. Right, and did I slack out the Unix converter? I probably didn't. So where? Okay, here we go. Great. Okay. One sec, I'm gonna just set this up really quickly. Oh, I copied. Perfect. I'm going to delete this database right here. Fill this out. We'll do joe@joe.com. Kiribus, UCB, submit. Do another one right here. This example is doing the exact same thing. I don't know. Okay. Looks like. All right, perfect. Yeah, good. Qua? Is his email? Oh, if you wanted to change this particular one, you would have to have this key.
Right. So you would set //
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And let's just say he doesn't know his key, right? So you'd have to loop over it until you find Joe. this is where it gets a little not great, right? Sort it in alphabetical order based on a subkey, right? Based on the age, or by number. You could do that. You can, but that's kind of as far as you can go in terms of searching through this. That's a little difficult. There's some interesting strategies you can employ during your project. Like you could have a key right inside here that has an array of all the names, right? And then you'll know quickly what index Joe's at, right? And then that might help you, because when you get all the children, you could select that particular index. Yeah, so there's ways around that kind of limitation, but it's not great. Right. Once we get to real databases, then we can solve those problems. All right, guys. So what I want to do right now is for the next 10 minutes, I just want you to write down any ideas you have for our projects. This Saturday, you'll be grouping together with 2 people max, and you'll be working on a project for the next 2 weeks and presenting them to the class. So I just want you to write down an idea that you have, or you can talk about ideas with your partners. So 10 minutes, just go over any idea you have for projects. It can be about anything. So what technologies are going to use for the project? Everything we do at this point. You must use Firebase, and you must use an API for your project, right? Firebase and an API, but anything else you can do, right? And I'm going to give you more details on Saturday itself. Right now, all you're doing is coming up with ideas with your, right, for the next 10 minutes. Yeah, sure. So here, let's show. Okay, these were my students in like 2016. This was the playlist. Don't copy them. I mean, you have to code it out anyway. But so this one was like a recipe generator, right? It's a recipe generator, so they used a recipe API. This one was interesting. They used a history API and Google Maps to kind of show you the history of location. So you could pick a location on a map, and they would show you the history of that location, which is interesting. Yeah, so that was really unique. Healthbox, they used the Yelp API, a few different APIs to give you health information and food information. Let's see. You know, someone made a game.
Everything that you've shown so far, then they've done out without Firebase.
Once you want to save data, right, then that's when you need to use Firebase. You want to save some data. So you have.
What do you think they were saving for the history API and the recipe?
Oh, for that project, they weren't required to use Firebase. So some of them did it, but for you guys, we're requiring it. So let's say you have voting, right, on different foods, then that's where it would be good. Yeah. It will just 10 minutes. You don't have to come up with your idea in these 10 minutes. Right? You're just brainstorming with your partners. Right? Any ideas at all, right? You can take a look. If you have none, you can take a look at the videos. Yeah.
said some people did game.
You can do a game. You can do. And you can have some picture on there. And you can move it there. Right? If you go on to the press, and you can drop things. They actually have fight. And then you can make it real time. If I remember, they'll all move like where this piece right here. That's insane, but you just go step by step, right? So the first step is like, okay, I have this, and I want you to move it over left, and then you move left. Once you get that working, at that point, it'll just go from there. So it will be a lot of fun.
And I have to say, based on
That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's what I want to try and add.
Mapbox is interesting. That's people are using that for AR, augmented reality. That API.
We're trying to add a scavenger hunt too.
That's a lot of people have that goal when they do the project, like a scavenger hunt. Very few people finish that goal. So if you do it, then that's impressive. If you were able to do it, that's very few people. If you can pull off a scavenger hunt.
So the walking tour you're gonna have.
What I would do if I were you is just have one tour for the beginning. One tour.
Only one tour.
That's it. Because a few things you need the geo coordinates, right? You can get that. You can get that in HTML5. And then you need to do a radius search, which you can do with Google Maps, right? So you have to do the radius search also. And then you need to have the points that they enter. When they enter those points, you need to automatically bring up the thing.
And automatically bring up like
Well, you need to bring up, talking about tour guide, right?
the landmark.
You're bringing up you're talking about an automated tour guide where you walk, you're saying like, okay, now go to this location, and then it'll bring up information about that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I was actually talking about more of like a list of walking tours in San Francisco to take, led by a guide.
Oh, I see. I thought you were talking automated tour guide.
No.
Yeah. So the automated tour guide's like a challenge for project.
I think that would be. This is just signing up with a guide, a menu of tours, some YouTube videos of those neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and a sign up application, and then a route. A route of the tour using that.
Only one person.
All right, guys. I sent out a survey right here. It won't be shared with your classmates, so it's just for the TAs and me. This is how we're going to be forming your groups, right? So it's what days remote from the project days. What days will you be absent? Are you traveling during those times, right? We're just trying to make sure the groups are solid. I don't want to put 3 people that are not going to be in class here. We're going to be forming the groups, yeah. No, but we're going to ask you, who would you want to partner with? Right, so we're going to ask you that, but if none of you can make class or one person's going to be absent for an entire week, it might not make sense to put them with. Yeah, I put the year down, but yeah, February 2nd. Yeah, February 2nd, 19th. Did I say February 16th? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're both Saturdays. February 2nd, February 16th is a Saturday. Oh, interesting. President's Day? When?
Tuesday.
Okay, so presentation 19th then. Sorry. So wait, let me just write that down. No, fill it out. Yeah. I can update this real quick. Okay, I just updated the survey. You're all good. What's up? It's a simple question. If I ran a review session, would you rather be on a review session? I'm just trying to say if there was a 2-week review of content, is that something you would prefer over doing that project? I'm just curious. I might not do that. The reason why is because you grow in this project time. So taking out of that completely might not be a good idea. My virtual review, like I might do a 30-minute review. Right, but I might. Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, are there people that want just like 3 applications? I have to think about it. A 30-minute review, I'm definitely doing that, but not. You don't have to go last. Well, you should if someone has the same names. I don't know how many people have the same names. Probably not. I think we all have unique names. There's 2 Joshes, yeah. So for Josh, okay. But everyone has to put your last name when they put you. It doesn't matter. Right, you're just filling out that form.
So essentially, starting Saturday, every day.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this tomorrow, based on this data. All right, got 8 responses. Need some more. 9 responses. Ten. Yes, what's up? You can't see my screen. Okay, good. I did. Yeah, it was unfortunate. It was a flash though, so I think like only one person really noticed. Oh, hey, I'll take care of it. Great, got 19 responses. Looking for a few more people. Looking for one more. Oh, perfect. Okay, looks like everyone. Wait, actually, someone filled this out without a name, though. Yeah, I guess that'll be fun. All right, guys, so I'm going to process this information, come up with the groups and send them Friday. So that way on Saturday, you'll sit with your groups, right? On Saturday, you'll sit with. What I'm going to do right now is get a list of APIs for you guys to check out. Okay, so I just slacked out two links. It has a list of APIs. So what I want you to do is just explore them with your partners. It sparks any ideas for you, right? You might already have an idea, but see if with APIs, if you had access to all this data, right, would this change something? Would you be able to do something more? Right, and talk about your ideas with each other.
Quick question.
What's up?
You know, of course, there are complicated APIs where you need nodes.
Mhm.
And there are
No node for
you
this.
can just make a get request. But like, how do we know? You know,
You're gonna have to explore. That's unfortunate. right? You just have to explore them, look at the documentation. So before you get too excited about an API, guys, before you get too excited about an API, try it, right? Try to make an AJAX request with it, right? Make sure it works, because someone could just shut down their API and it's not there anymore, right? Or you see it kind of works, right? But then as soon as you try some other functionality, they don't work. It's part of the frustration of like using other people's API because you're not in control. API blocking.
You'll lose your money. Yeah. I know. If you make it money, people break it. Yeah. Bet $1 million. Easy.
So some of these have to actually like apply for accumulating.
Yeah, sometimes apply those apply right away. Like immediately. Maybe sometimes you don't. Sometimes they have to manually put here.
I'm still debating on this one.
If that's the case, and you want to try to do things, marijuana. That would be amazing.
I don't know yet.
It's kind of no brain.
I was gonna just do like
All my money on this.
and sign up on Firebase.
And so like it's not like it's not like it might go down now. Don't die on there. These guys are it's a safe too. And you're
Did you join? I didn't do the hackathon.
Yeah,
How many? Yeah, me too. Yeah, so essentially, there's this site, they have and yeah, the site's not very good. Yeah, but it's the thing is supposed to reload the map. You know, the tours operate over time. Also,
So you're making like a map.
yeah, the sign up. User authentication. Yeah, like essentially the oh, here it is. Yeah. So, this is kind of what I want to do. You know, you've got a map, you've got different landmarks. You have, and then what I'll be able to do is use map boxes to groups of things that you walk into. Yeah, so like I'm just walking more volatile. You know, it's pretty crazy stuff. But much cities you live in a sort of an instance about vigilance, ships, and Wednesdays and Fridays and Monday, Sunday, northeast corner play and the summer skits. So it's like a place where the tour meets. But essentially, it's just an opportunity to play with math.
And that's safe, so you don't have to like stress about it, right? You don't have to be always testing.
You can utilize it.
Because like people invest in Amazon.
Put in like some landmarks.
Most people,
and you can use the
pretty good. I thought most people.
There's already a lot of good data.
I mean, they're
and then also the YouTube. What's cool is you have some YouTube videos where people are doing so
I can even show you right now.
videos.